Russell Westbrook's always been thought of as one of the top point guards in the NBA, but no matter how good he plays or how good of teammates he's teamed up with, things just haven't worked out for the team. And all of those teammates have left and done bigger and better things, or are rumored to be leaving. So eventually, we gotta think that there might not be a problem with the Oklahoma City Thunder and start realizing that the real problem is Russell Westbrook. So let's look at this. Over the past 5 years, Russell Westbrook's been on a team with James Harden and Kevin Durant. He's been teamed up with Victor Oladipo and now Paul George and Carmelo Anthony. Immediately after leaving, James Harden becomes a star in the league. He's about to win his first MVP, and as of the making of this video, he's got a good chance of making it into the NBA Finals. Kevin Durant left and became a champion. Victor Oladipo became a star immediately after leaving, and now rumor has it that Paul George wants out of OKC too. And it's been made clear that even Melo hasn't been happy with his role on the Thunder. Now all of these things have conditions on them, like the fact that Harden was a bench player when he played there, Oladipo didn't even play at an all-star level when he played in Orlando without Westbrook a year earlier, KD joined the best team in the league for his ring, and Carmelo and Russ are both ball-dominant players, which gave Melo less time with the ball. But even with all that being said, for a guy to have all of these teammates and to have only made it to the NBA Finals one time still seems a little weird. Russell Westbrook's a triple-double machine, and even though he can still get all the stats in the world, doesn't mean he's the best teammate. Ever since playing with Harden and Durant years ago, he's been accused of holding the ball way too long and not passing it until the shot clock's in single digits, or just flat out taking too many shots. I don't usually get too deep into analytics and all that, but I had to find out Russ's usage rate, which is basically the percentage of the Thunder's plays that Westbrook attempted while he was on the court, whether it was a made or missed shot, a turnover, or shooting foul shots. So I looked this stat up for every year back to his third year in the league. In 2010, he was 5th in the league in this stat. In 2011, he was 2nd. 2012, he was 3rd. 2013, he was 1st. 2014, 1st. 2015, he was 8th. 2016, 2nd. And this past year, he was 3rd in the league. And not only was he ranked this high compared to the other players in the league, but this number has been consistently between 30 and 40%. And out of all of his teammates that I mentioned earlier, he's never been ranked lower than any of these guys since his 3rd year in the league. So I think it's crazy that people still try to say Westbrook isn't the problem in OKC. I mean, the man's a great player, but even this stat alone tells us he's not the best teammate. Let's look at each set of teammates here and break down how Westbrook played with them. Starting with Harden and Durant. We're going to get to Harden's time after OKC in a minute, but we can't really say too much about his actual time there because he was coming off the bench and he still played great. But when Russ and Durant played together, it was clear to most people that Durant was the best player on the team. But a lot of times, especially in the playoffs, it was Westbrook with the ball most of the time and taking the most shots. And this is something he's been catching heat for years now, but nothing's really changed. Looking back to this time, they didn't have the greatest role players, but there was still 2 other stars on the team and Serge Ibaka, and I think a lot of people would say they underachieved. And then there was Victor Oladipo. Like I said for James Harden, we can't put too much of this on Westbrook because no one really saw Oladipo becoming the breakout star that he became. But he did, just like Harden. And it would be a bit of a coincidence that 2 of the biggest breakout stars in the past 10 years in the NBA just by coincidence played with Russell Westbrook right before the breakout season. Now that's either saying that Russ is the greatest teammate ever and makes his players better, but they don't realize it until after they leave, or that he held them back. Now I get that this isn't a real solid point because a lot more goes into it, but it's still something to consider. And now this past season we've had Paul George and Carmelo Anthony. This past year, we saw all 3 of these guys' stats go down in pretty much every category, which is normal because they all went from being the guy on their teams the year before to having to share the ball with 2 other stars, and it just didn't work. Personally, I think it could have worked a lot better if Melo didn't laugh at the idea of playing less and coming off the bench, but like I said, these guys are both guys that have always played with the ball in their hands. But either way, now we've gotten to the point where OKC has had all of this great talent, but things still haven't gone their way, and the one constant has been Russell Westbrook. If PG-13 leaves and Carmelo remains unhappy, I don't know how many more guys they're gonna sign or trade for to team up Westbrook with. But so far, they've tried 3 of the league's top small forwards and 2 of the league's top shooting guards, so I don't know what it's going to take to convince them that no matter who you team up with Westbrook, it's probably not going to work. From the sound of things, the man needs to take a page out of Wilt Chamberlain's book. Here's a little side story as an example. We all know the kind of dominant player Wilt Chamberlain was back in his day. He had his 50-point, 25 rebound a game season, his 100-point game, and so many more unstoppable records, games, and seasons. He really was one of the league's single most dominant and unstoppable players. He led the league in scoring every year of his first 8 seasons, and led in rebounds 5 times. But through all that, he never won an NBA championship. You'd think that the man is averaging historic numbers. What more can he do? And you'd think that if he can't win a championship with those numbers, then he probably wasn't going to win one at all. But after the 1966 playoffs, where Wilt and the 76ers lost again, a few players on the 76ers, led by a guy named Alex Hannum, called out Chamberlain for his style of play, not as an individual but as a teammate. This even led to a fist fight between Hannum and Wilt. I'd hate to be that guy. But Hannum never backed down from his argument, and that earned Wilt's respect. And it led Chamberlain to listening to what him and the other guys on the team had to say. And they talked to him about how he needed to be less dominant and more of a team player. And then immediately the next season, Wilt had changed. In his 50-point per game season, he took 35% of the team's shots, but for the 1967 season, that number dropped all the way down to 14%. He averaged a career low 24 points a game, finished the season 3rd in assists, still won the MVP, helped his team to a 68-13 record, and won the NBA championship that year. So instead of doing more, it was surprising to find out that to win, Wilt actually had to do less. This was something he realized and used for the rest of his career, because he never averaged a 30-point per game season again, even though he definitely could have if he wanted to. He learned that he had to put more trust in his teammates, which, in my opinion, is what Russell Westbrook has to do. It seems like he needs that veteran player or coach to teach him that lesson. And sure, he's passed the ball more and has been averaging over 10 assists a game for the past 3 seasons, but that's not the point. He still holds the ball just as much, and even though he passes it, you can tell nothing's changed in terms of trusting his teammates. And until he does that, it's going to be hard for the other players on the team to really develop and for them to get better as a whole. So for all these star teammates that Westbrook has had that I mentioned earlier, you can make an excuse for why he isn't the problem, but at least in my opinion, if he's not going to have that career-changing moment, then it's well past the time for the Thunder to move on from him. At the rate things are going, I don't really see him changing who he is, no matter who he plays with. But hey, maybe actually getting traded and going to a different team with a different environment can change his mindset and the way he plays. And maybe that's just what he needs. And I want to know if you guys agree or disagree on this. Now I know all the Westbrook fans are definitely going to disagree, but for everyone else, definitely comment your thoughts and let me know. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next video.